What is up, everybody? Ethan Newberry, the Ginger Runner, here for another Ginger Runner Live, episode number 47, first show of 2015. Happy New Year to everybody. Hope you had a great holiday. I recently posted a video with all my New Year's resolutions, things and goals that I wanted to get accomplished in 2015. I've already broken my first one. I am nursing an injury currently, so my ankle is elevated, and I have a little bit of ice on it, which I'll rotate through today. But my guest tonight suffered from the exact same injury, in addition to being one of the best runners in the world. I look up to this guy. He's super nice, super sweet dude that, loves to hang out and is super nice to everybody, treats everybody with respect, treats the trails with respect, the community with respect. He's amazing. Dylan Bowman is joining us on the show tonight. I'm very, very excited to have him as a guest and talk all about his last season, his upcoming season, his new sponsors, and to even maybe get some advice on how to handle this injury, because it's a common injury that a lot of people get, and he had one of the worst ones. And he's going to talk about kind of how he recovered and maybe shed some light onto how an elite deals with an injury, moves on, and then continues to win races. So I'm excited to have him. Welcome to the show, everybody. Sit back, relax. Maybe you grabbed a beverage, an adult or child version. It's all good. Let's enjoy Ginger Runner Live, episode number 47. Yeah! Ginger Runner. Yes! Welcome, everybody. I noticed in the chat room, since the show is live, we have a live chat room, there's a couple newcomers, people who have never seen Ginger Runner live, so I welcome you to the show. Throughout the course of the show, I'll be checking in with the chat room as often as possible. Sometimes I forget because I'm talking to the guest. But if you have any questions for Dylan, ask him in the chat room, and I'll relay them to him. Without further ado, let's just introduce the man. As I mentioned, an incredible athlete. His resume is extensive. He's been in the ultra community for years. I want to find out more about his running history before ultras, so we'll talk about that a bit tonight. But just to give you an example, he was 5th at the recent North Face 50 miler in San Francisco, which is now his home, Mill Valley, the Marin area. He was 3rd at Western States last year, 2014, with an incredible performance that was an hour faster than his 2013 performance. So he's obviously making progress year to year, and he's already at the top echelon of the sport, which is pretty incredible. 1st at North Face 50 miler in New York this last year as well, and 1st at the Sean O'Brien 50 miler earlier this year. I'm going to introduce him. I can't wait to get our stoke on. It's Dylan Bowman. Dylan, what is up, buddy? How are you, man?
Jeez, what an introduction, man. Thank you so much. Good to be on.
10 minutes later, I finally show the man's face. So excited to have you on the show, Dylan. How was your holiday, first of all? You have a good, relaxing holiday?
It was excellent, yeah. We went up to Oregon. My girlfriend Harmony grew up in Portland, so we spent Christmas up there. Very traditional, family-oriented Christmas, which was a departure from the recent norm for me, having worked many of the last several Christmases. And, yeah, it was great to spend some time with her family, and then we went to Bend for a few days, which is a place I've never been, and got to go skiing up there, connect with some of the local running community, and generally have a good time. But it was a great holiday season, yeah.
Yeah, what is it that you mentioned that you've had to work on holidays before? That sucks.
Yeah, so before I moved to the Bay Area, I lived in Aspen, and I worked at a very ritzy 5-star 5-diamond hotel. And so Christmas was basically our busiest time of the year, and my responsibility was to ensure that everything went smoothly, and when it didn't go smoothly, to put out fires along the way. So that meant I was very, very busy during the holiday season over the last several years. So it was good to get back to a normal holiday season.
So a lot of runners, specifically ultra runners that are maybe in the scene, consider North Face 50 miler kind of the end of the season, the last race of the year, and you kind of take December off. For you, did you look at it the same way? Did you look at the North Face as kind of your last moment of the year, or did you already have a schedule planned out and kind of take you through, or was it a rest time?
It's a good question, and I didn't really have much of a plan. out, going into the North Face in terms of what I would do afterwards. Basically, my 2015 season was totally up in the air at that point. Um, my training leading into the North Face was very, very intense, and because of that, I felt like I needed a physical and mental break immediately after the race, which I took over the last couple of weeks while we were traveling and during the holiday season. So I feel like I'm refreshed at this point. And the good thing is that since I didn't run any races, any ultra races between Western States and the North Face, it means that my body was able to really, I think, absorb the effort of that training and of that race, and that'll hopefully springboard me into a really solid 2015 season. I think I've always usually raced my best like in the winter and spring months of the year.
Okay.
Not really sure why that is. Maybe just because of the rhythms of how my racing's been, and how my training typically goes. Who knows? But yeah, now at this point, I'm excited. I'm going out to Tarawera for the 100K in New Zealand.
Excellent.
At the end of this month. The race is February 7th, so I'll spend about 10 days down there. And then, yeah, we'll keep the nose to the grindstone from that point on.
I love it. I think that's great. And actually, you brought up a good point. Last time I saw you before North Face was, I think, at Squamish, because you were registered and ready to race at Squamish. I think it was either the 50 miler or the 50K. I believe it was a 50 miler. But you made the trip up and decided not to race. You were still feeling Western a good month later. But you mentioned that like this could be a really good thing in your training. So you took a really long break, as you just mentioned, between Western and North Face. With ultra runners these days, especially elite ultra runners, racing often and racing frequently, do you think it helped you to take those months to kind of recoup from Western, which is a brutal 100-mile race, and you had to put yourself out there to get third place? I can only imagine how much intensity you had to put out there for that distance and at that race amongst that competition. Do you think that long break benefited you going into North Face? Is this something that you might incorporate into future training plans?
Absolutely, and I have never been as prolific of a racer as a lot of guys are, and I've always valued my downtime. Mm-hmm. And the decision had been made that I wasn't going to race the Squamish race long before we made the trip up to Canada. Basically, my girlfriend had taken some time off from work, and we had already had the trip planned a couple months in advance. And it was clear, a couple weeks after Western, that mentally more so than physically, I just wasn't ready to get back into the grind of training. And, I respect racing enough to not show up unless I'm really ready for it. I mean, there's no question I could have shown up at Squamish and gotten through it and probably had a decent race, but it would have set me back a little bit, maybe not immediately, but in the long term, I don't think doing that is beneficial to your longevity or to your physical health. So I made the decision not to race. We had an excellent time spectating your silly double that you accomplished there. We had a great time. But yeah, having that big break, at least from racing, I mean, like I said, I was training my butt off in between Western States and the North Face, at least, after I had recovered appropriately from Western States. But not racing, enables you to not go quite as deep, and, I think therefore, sustain better performances over the long term.
I honestly, this is probably the best moment for me to hear someone like you say that, just because with the recent ankle twist, I don't feel like it's a super severe injury, but it's one of those injuries that, as we talked about, and we'll talk about it later in the show, you having suffered something very similar, it still has residual effects on you, whether it's physical or mental. It still kind of plays with you a little bit. And so to hear that it's more important to kind of listen to your body than it is to just go out there and put out a performance that may be great, may be bad, but could potentially damage a future is something maybe I needed to hear, because I have a race in 5 weeks or 4 weeks, and it's one that I've been looking forward to. And for the next week, it's going to be kind of coming down to, is it worth potentially injuring myself further or putting myself deeper in the hole and racing this race just because it's special to me, or putting it off and saving it for next year and going and spectating or volunteering and taking a different role in that race. So that I needed to hear that. So thank you, Dylan. Questions in the chat room. This one's from Baker McCool, and I think it's a great transition to what I wanted to start talking to Dylan about. What is your running background? First start in the sport, early training, racing, moving into ultra, etc. I don't actually know myself, and this is something I've been wanting to talk to you about, because I know you've been in ultra for 4 or 5 years now, a long time, in so to speak, and I know that you've been racing long before that, or at least running. Kind of what got you into the sport, and how long ago did you really join up into the running community?
Well, I come from what I would call a non-traditional running background, and actually ultra running was really my introduction to the sport of running as a whole. I played lacrosse through high school and college, and I've always been somebody who's considered myself an athlete, somebody who's always enjoyed sports in all different contexts, whether it's team sports or endurance sport or anything in between. And when I graduated from college and my lacrosse career was over, that long history of being used to going to practice every day and honing your craft in some way was sort of something that I missed, and I didn't have that ritual sweat, just getting out the door and getting some exercise in every day was something that I missed. So I just started jogging, and I just started running, and I was living in Aspen at the time, so I just sort of started to run on trails, just that was the natural thing that seemed intuitive to me at the time. I signed up for a marathon in Breckenridge, Colorado at a certain point on 2 weeks' notice, just because somebody had recommended it to me, and I thought, why not? I'll do it. I was planning to drive down to the Front Range to hang out with some of my college friends that weekend anyway. So I went and ran this marathon in Breckenridge. Ended up having a decent race, but being completely miserable for the last third of the race, as most people can probably sympathize with or identify with. But afterwards, I was really excited. Couldn't believe what I had done, and at that point, running was still just a hobby, something that I did for fun. And it wasn't until I learned about the Leadville 100 race through a newspaper article that was written in a local Aspen paper that I decided that I really wanted to do that. And it was just one of those moments in life where something just happened and you kind of realized that it was a turning point, at least in retrospect. Immediately I was like, I am going to do this thing, and it gave me something to sort of aim at, instead of just jogging around in the mountains around Aspen. It gave me something to sort of focus on. And then, so I did the Leadville 100 then the next year, and that went really well.
You dove right in. You were like, let's just do a marathon and let's do 100. Why not?
Well, yeah, I should preface that. I did 2 50-milers prior to my race at Leadville. But, yeah, they all went decently well, and I enjoyed all of them. And like I said, Leadville was the goal, and once I had completed that and figured out that it was doable and that it was something that I was okay at, I couldn't stop, and here we are.
It's incredible. Was that the 2010 Leadville?
Yeah, 2010 was my first.
Yeah, when you placed 3rd place, which is not bad at all, Dylan. Placing 3rd place in your first 100-miler is pretty incredible, especially at Leadville, where there's 1,500 people that are actually running it. That's incredible. So it kind of brings us up to this year. You had an incredible 2014. There's some pretty big news, which you've announced and is out there publicly, but you are now part of Team North Face, which is congratulations, Dylan. That is incredible. Huge news on the sponsor front for you. What was the transition like for you coming from Pearl Izumi to Team North Face? Was it something that you pursued? Was it something that North Face came to you? Kind of how did that work? How did that transition work for you?
Yeah, so the talks with the North Face actually happened or started way back in like July, and first thanks for the congratulations. So it was something that was really exciting for me at that point to receive communication from them and for them to be showing interest, especially given the athletes, the caliber of athletes that they have on their team.
Which is incredible. Top notch, top of the world. I mean, Rob Krar, Timothy Olson, Rory Bozio, just incredible names.
Right, yeah, and Hal and Mike Wolf and all of these guys who I sort of grew up idolizing in the sport. When I came into ultra running, these are the guys who I followed and the people who I looked up to the most. So having the North Face show interest at that point was really an exciting thing for me. At the same time, I kind of felt like my time with Pearl had sort of run its course. It was kind of clear they were probably going to be going in a different direction with how they wanted to spend their marketing dollars and which direction they wanted to go as a brand. And that's their prerogative, and so it was just sort of like a perfect time for me to make the transition. And the fact that we started talking in July, and then we were finally able to make it public there right before the North Face race was kind of a load off my chest. It was nice not to have to keep a secret any longer, but also it was a bit stressful doing that right before the North Face 50-mile race, thinking, oh, shoot, like I'm totally going to blow my first race as a North Face athlete in their backyard.
Right.
But it went okay, so hopefully, they'll continue to go well, and that I'll be able to represent them well going forward in the future. But yeah, like I said, it's I couldn't be happier about it. I'm really, really lucky.
Yeah, you did very well. Fifth place amongst what people are saying arguably is one of the most competitive ultra marathon races this year in the United States. I think is pretty damn good. Really, really excited for you and kind of to see this season and to see your ongoing journey, especially under the North Face flag. Do they determine what races you'll run this year? So at this point, are you able to kind of pick and choose those races that you wanted to do? Are you able to pick international races that interest you? How does this kind of open that door to the bigger picture for you and your racing career?
Yeah, that's exactly right. It basically just opens a lot more doors for me. And
Cool.
To answer your question, no, I don't have like a set schedule of races that they'd like me to compete at. But that being said, of course, I want to run the biggest, most competitive races, which, at the same time is strategic for them. I mean, I don't think they would necessarily want me to run a bunch of, local races. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but at this point in my career, I really want to focus on the biggest, most competitive races and take advantage of, my peak years as an athlete. So no, I have a lot of freedom in determining my own schedule, but a lot of it will be focused on those high-profile events that they would probably want to see me run anyway.
That's still pretty cool. So you actually get the opportunity to run some of the big ones. Are we talking UTMB, Europe races? Is there anything on your mind that this is the one that I want to do well at?
Well, like I said, I'm going to go over to Tarawera here
Right.
in just at the end of the month. So that'll be my first international race this year. Western States is on the schedule again, which is not international, but is certainly a world-class event.
Absolutely.
And something that gets me excited like nothing else. So I'll do Western States again, and then I'm thinking the plan will actually be to go over to France for the CCC in August, which is the 100-kilometer sister race of the UTMB. And
Mm-hmm.
most of that has to do with the fact that I recognize that American men, for whatever reason, have a hard time putting a good race together at the full distance UTMB, and I have a tremendous amount of respect for the guys who have gone over there and not had good days, and I don't want to be naive enough to assume that I could do the same thing and have a different result. So
Yeah.
going over and running the CCC, I think might be a smart choice for me. To preview 100 kilometers of the course, virtually the last 2/3 of the race, and then hopefully go back for the full enchilada in 2016. So that's kind of the plan for this year. Now I'll also probably run the Lake Sonoma 50, also here in my backyard in California,
Excellent.
and maybe something else in between that and Western. But that's how the year's shaping up at this point. So at least a couple international events, and then we'll have the North Face 50-mile championship party there at the end of the year again.
You have to. You have
Yeah.
to. You have to spend a good portion of your year at the Deuce, and that's going to definitely be a part of it. I was actually at the New York Marathon this year. Someone came up to me from France, and they asked, "Would you ever run in France?" I said, "Oh yeah. I mean, UTMB is one of those dream races." And they said, "Whoa, whoa, whoa! Before you think about UTMB, think about the CCC." They said the CCC still gets you on all those beautiful sections of trail that you see in all of the UTMB videos and films, and it takes you on the parts of the course you want to run, but you also don't have to worry about all the stress and the difficulty, I guess, of the full course. They said it's just a great experience to go run the 100K, and you also don't have to worry about the lottery or the really, really difficult lottery to get in for UTMB. So
Yeah.
I can't wait to hear you run the CCC. That's going to be amazing.
The other thing is too about the CCC is that it's run during the daytime, which is an anomaly in Europe. So we start at a civilized hour, and should finish at or near sundown. Whereas the UTMB, nearly half of the race is at night, if not more.
Right.
And also it'll give me the opportunity. I think, if I'm not mistaken, generally speaking, assuming I would have a decent race at the CCC, I would finish with enough time to take a nap or go to sleep, and then go and spectate the last 50 or 60 miles of the UTMB race and maybe help support an American person there with some crew help. So there's some other things that make it attractive. And then we're planning to do my girlfriend and I do a little vacation somewhere there in Europe afterwards. So
cool.
That's kind of the plan.
Dylan needs his naps.
After 100 kilometers, yeah.
For sure. Some good questions going on in the chat room, guys, so keep those coming. Kimosabe75 and Baker McCool were asking some interesting questions about Team North Face. Do you get the opportunity to train with the other North Face runners, both male and female? Is it something that North Face promotes? Like, do they have a retreat that you guys all go to? And finally, do you have input on gear? This is a great question. Do you have any input on shoes, shorts, tops, any sort of gear input that they're going to kind of incorporate this year based off of your favorite styles of shoes and running gear?
Yeah, sure. So to answer the first question, yeah, like I said, I have known all the athletes on the team for a long time and consider most of them to be friends. And, I have done some good runs with, Tim and Mike. And I actually was in Bend, like I mentioned, last week and went running with Stephanie Howe. So, I would assume, there's going to be plenty more opportunities to get runs in with them. We will be doing a retreat sort of thing in Yosemite in April, which is something that I'm really excited about, where they get all the global athletes together. So, the climbers and the skiers and snowboarders and the runners, obviously. And I think at that point, obviously there's some marketing things that are done, but I think the focus of it is probably more on product development, and the North Face is very unique in how they use their athletes, and they're very involved in the process, which is something that made the transition really attractive to me, and I hope to be able to make some contributions where that's concerned. Of course, I'm brand new at this point, so I'm not as familiar with the process, but I'll figure it out here in the near future, and I would hope to be able to, like I said, to help out as much as I can. The other thing that's helpful too is that they're in the Bay Area. They're just on the other side of the bay in Alameda from me, so I'm hoping that makes me a little bit more useful to them.
Sure.
But yeah, we'll see.
Great question in the chat room from Mario. What's up, Mario? Good to see you at the live show. Debo, is North Face coming out with a jort in 2015?
This is an inside joke, I think, because we did.
It's pretty public. We saw the photo. Those who follow you on Instagram have seen the photo.
Yeah. Well, for those who are uninitiated yet, on New Year's Eve, there was an enormous pack of 25 or so local Bay Area runners who got together to celebrate the new year, and also my 100th summit of Mount Tam in 2014.
Woo! That's a huge accomplishment.
Yeah, it was a really fun outing, and something that was really satisfying for me to actually do, especially knowing that I won't have to do it again. To tick that one off the list. But for the run, Brett Rivers, it was his idea to make it where everybody would wear jorts on the run, and it turned out only, probably 7 people did, and only I had the real jorts where the pockets are actually sticking out, and where they're the appropriate length, where there's enough thigh exposure.
Near
those are the new prototype Captain Naked jorts from the North Face. Yeah.
That was one of your signing bonuses. Was like, dude, you guys, you have to do jorts.
Yeah.
I love North Face, but you got to do jorts.
Yeah.
Good question, Mario. That's excellent. Let's talk about the Mount Tam thing. I so wish I was there. It sounds like an incredible feat, and the fact that you did 100 summits of this mountain that's in Marin Headlands. What was the impetus to do this over the course of 2014, running to the summit 100 times? Was there a challenge amongst buddies? Was it something that someone else has done? Are you the first to do it? Give us some of the history behind that, because that blows my mind. That's really, really incredible.
Yeah, so when I moved to Marin, it was August of 2013. I had been in the Bay Area for a short time already, living at a relative's house. And Harmony and I moved up into Mill Valley, which of course has kind of become a hot spot of trail and ultra running, specifically because of the opening of the San Francisco Running Company. And when I moved here, one of the first things I wanted to do was start going to the Wednesday morning TAM summits as often as I could to run with the guys. And it became apparent quickly that they were all keeping track of their summit counts and having a little friendly gentleman's competition over who could get the most in 2013. And at that point, it was like, okay, boys, enjoy it while it lasts, because I'm gonna own this next year. And, I mean, there was always a friendly competition component to it, specifically with Galen Burrell, who's another Mill Valley resident. He was giving me a run for my money for many months, actually, and we had a little back and forth. Another one of our friends, Fernando Steta, who lives in the city, managed to get 80 summits, which is quite a feat in and of itself. But yeah, it basically, to answer your question, right around like the culmination of my training for the North Face, it became apparent that, if I didn't go for it, I was going to finish with like 93 summits. So it was never really like at the beginning of the year I'm going to get 100 summits. It was like at the end of the year I was like, oh crap, I am going to get 90 something. I might as well get 100.
Got it.
So it made for a difficult recovery period immediately following the North Face 50, but it made for also a super satisfying accomplishment and something that I'll look back on for a long time. I'm not sure if anybody's ever done it before. I would assume that there's some Marin wizard who's done something similar at some point in history.
I just want to picture a Marin wizard. I think that's great. Earlier, I wrote down some questions from those in the chat room. This is from Calope Zero. Dylan, I know that the mental game, especially in the upper tiers of racing, has a huge influence on the podium. What experiences do you believe contribute to making a racer tough as nails?
Wow, that's a good question, and I'm not sure I'm necessarily the best person to ask because I think I have a tendency to kind of turn into a baby sometimes. When things get difficult, but obviously there is a huge mental component to the sport, and it is something that I do consciously work on in my training. To give you an example, before Western States, my whole training, like everything I ever visualized was running well in the last 15, 20 miles of the race. Because I had had 2 finishes there where I didn't run well in those critical miles between Green Gate and the finish. And, there was a lot of runs where I was not having a great time in training, and I just thought, you have to use this as an opportunity to toughen yourself up for that particular 3 hours of your life, because those are really the moments that make a difference. And it was crazy because Max King was right in front of me there at the end of the race, and at mile 94 I'm thinking, holy cow, this is actually the thing I've been visualizing every single day in training for upwards of a year, and it's actually happening right now, and you can't blow this, and there's no doubt in my mind that doing those things in training and pushing myself when it was not comfortable in training gave me the extra couple percentage points that I needed to catch and pass him, with 5 miles to go, which is pretty much as close as it gets.
Yeah,
so,
for sure.
Yeah, in terms of like advice as how you can address that in training, I would say just focus on those situations that you can foresee coming up and those critical moments, and visualize yourself reacting well in those situations, and staying composed and not losing control.
That's brilliant. That's good. What about you brought up something that made me instantly think of nutrition. What do you do for nutrition? What is kind of your go-to at this point?
So I have a basic strategy that entails gel and water. The only thing that is kind of unique about it is that I put my gel in my water. So I put 2 Cliff Shots in 20-ounce water bottle.
Mm-hmm.
And the water obviously dilutes it down, so I'm just getting my calories straight from the bottle. I get about 200 per. It's something that my coach doesn't think is a great strategy, but seems to work for me. The other thing that I did at Western States, where I don't think that strategy is very useful, just in terms of the fact that 100-mile racing deserves a different nutritional strategy. So what I did was I also supplemented that with some boiled extra salty sweet potato that I kept in a baggie in my pocket, and it really helped. It was something that I've looked forward to eating basically the whole race, and it not necessarily from a calorie perspective, but more so from like a stomach settling perspective, and just a balancing between the sweet and savory. And I mean, sweet potatoes are obviously sweet, but not to the same degree that gels are. So that works for me, and I think I finally have kind of figured that out, at least based on how I felt during Western States. But of course, it could totally backfire for somebody else.
Yeah, it's if there's one thing I've learned is that nutrition is different for every human. Because I've talked to hundreds of ultra runners now and been like, what do you use? And then gone and tried it, and it doesn't work for me. So that's a pretty common thing.
The other thing is, I can't drink electrolyte drink for whatever reason. It just makes me nauseous. It makes me throw up every time. So, and I can eat salt pills till the cows come home, but electrolyte drinks I just can't handle. I also don't do well with caffeine in races. So yeah, it's a very individual thing.
That's funny. This last year I discovered the same thing with caffeine. I can do caffeine 45 minutes before a race, but it has to be a small amount. Anything during a race, if it's not the last hour or so of a long ultra, then I'm done. Like it'll just mess me up. And same with water intake. I'm a real fine line of how much water I can put in and put out, and it can be a real steep tipping point. This question came earlier from Kimosabe75 for Dylan and Ginger. How far off the trail is the minimal distance to take a poop?
Oh man, I guess the nearest tree.
Yeah, anywhere you can get cover. I believe the rule of the trail is 100 yards or 100 feet or something like that off trail. But yeah, if you're in a race and there's nothing around, it's probably nearest tree. I think that's probably fitting. From Blake, I'm going to spell it, or I'm going to sound it out wrong, Spiegelberg. Ginger runner or Dylan, after my first year of running, I've completed 5 ultras, 3 50Ks, 2 50-milers. How do I become faster after mile 30? I am currently a 12-plus hour 50-mile runner.
My advice would be to get a coach and get a training program. And in order to get faster, you have to run faster in training. And that was something that it took me a long time to figure out. I think the thing that I respond to the best, particularly for 50 and 100-mile racing, is lactate threshold work. So intervals where I'm going at about 80% of my max speed for between 10 and 30 minutes at a time, and doing a few repetitions. So I would say get a coach, get somebody who's a professional, and run faster in training.
Yeah, I'm actually on that same boat this year, looking at getting a coach or someone to at least keep me in line, because as much speed work as I feel like I'm doing or trying to do, especially later in this last season, it's like I know it could be better, because a coach is someone that is going to make you do your best. And how long have you had your coach, Dylan?
I've been working with Jason since, well, it actually was immediately after my ankle injury.
Okay.
I got in touch with him. So that was, I guess, that was like September of 2013. And, of course, I wasn't really able to start training until probably October of that year.
Okay.
So.
Yeah, it's a year and a half or so, and you noticed some pretty vast improvement. I mean, just looking at your times from your resume of the races that you've placed, it's incredible how much time you've shaved off of the exact same race. I mean, over 30 minutes in North Face alone this season, and it was a longer course this year, right? Even though it was a reroute, wasn't it about?
Well, no, it wasn't 30 minutes. I think I was maybe like 10 minutes faster this year, but the course was different. I would say, I mean, I'm a much better runner now than I was at this point last year.
Okay.
but there's no question. I mean, having a coach has been the number one contributing factor to me improving as an athlete, especially in the last 15 months. Just because, like you said, it gives you somebody else to be accountable to, and
Sure.
when, it's so easy to say, I'm too tired today, I don't need to do this workout, I'll just go longer tomorrow, whatever the case may be. Having a professional who has an objective, long lens approach of your training and what you need to be doing, I
Mhm.
think is incredibly valuable, and somebody who you can have communication with. Like I said, I have a propensity to be kind of, I think, a little bit soft sometimes.
Yeah,
Not
sure.
to say I don't work my ass off, but occasionally I'll leave a note in my workout, which I'll upload to a little platform we use, and say, I'm tired, and he'll say, well, yeah, you're supposed to be. Or
That's yeah.
if I'm actually too tired, and he can see it in my data because he's a professional,
Hmm.
he'll say, okay, take tomorrow off. We're gonna bag tomorrow's workout. Just do an hour easy. And so just having a professional, who has a background in making people faster is, I think, just an obvious, you know, smart investment to make as an athlete.
Do you have any advice? This is the year that I'm actually running my very first 100 miler. Do you have any advice for someone making the transition from 50Ks, 50 milers, 100Ks to the longer distance? I mean, is there anything that you've learned?
I get this question a lot, and my answer is always the same, and that is just don't freaking quit. And make that your number one mantra well before you get to the starting line. And if you get there knowing that under no circumstances will you not finish the race, you'll get through it and you'll have a great time doing it. Um,
I'm
well,
putting that on a
maybe,
t-shirt.
yeah,
Don't freaking quit. I'm just putting it on a t-shirt.
yeah. And I mean, uh, there's got to be no more disappointing feeling than not finishing something like that you've put so much into. So, and
Yeah.
I think just having that, you know, die hard mentality goes a long way, and it enables you to deal with problems in real time as they occur. Then if leave that window open and say, well, oh well, my shins hurt or whatever, something like that.
Yeah.
Just don't freaking quit,
Love it.
because everything's gonna
Simple.
hurt. It's gonna suck. It's gonna hurt, but it's worth it.
I mean, that's the whole point is to be able to push through that because I mean, in my opinion, every ultra hurts at some point somehow. Even if it's a 50K and you're used to running 50 milers, but you're running your 50K a little bit faster, so something's going to hurt. If it's not hurting, you're doing it wrong. Um, but that's a great mantra. Super simple. I'll definitely be carrying that. You mentioned earlier with your coach, you picked up a coach after your ankle injury, and I wanted to talk a bit about this since it's so relevant to me at this very moment, having twisted my ankle this weekend. I've gotten the question a lot, how did it happen? And I think this is the same story that a lot of you can relate to because it's happened to you as well. Dylan, probably you can share your story if it's different, but it was a run here in Vancouver. As you can tell, I'm still in Vancouver. I'll be here for another week. But it was in the North Shore of Vancouver, which is very technical, and that's putting it lightly. And all day we were going up and down hills doing some basically hill work on technical trails up and down. And the one section of flat trail heading back to the car is the one spot where I lost focus and my ankle went in between two, it was either roots or rocks, and it just twisted in between them. And as soon as it happened, I felt the pop and was down. I was instantly down, grabbing my ankle, and I've never had a roll this bad, so I thought I had broken my ankle. I thought it was a instant break. And the rest of the crew was like, "Oh man," like laughing, and "Are you all right? You okay?" I'm like, "This isn't. Stop laughing. This isn't. No, this is bad." And sure enough, within seconds, just pulling my pants up a little bit, you could see the swelling And this is the actual swelling. I'll just kind of show you guys here. I posted this picture on Instagram. The outside of my ankle, that is not a tan line, by the way. That's a shadow of the phone. People were like, oh, you have a tan line. I'm like, no, I don't tan. I'd be lucky to tan. I'm a ginger, semi-transparent. I'm surprised you can't see the floor through my foot. That ball on the outside there on the left-hand side is the swelling. And I've gotten maybe 30 photos from people who have described the exact same thing happened to them, and they show a photo, and it's the exact same situation. The advice I've had, I went to a doctor, and the advice I got from the doctor right away was 24 to 72 hours of rice, which is resting it, icing it, elevating it, compressing it as well. Just taking the time to let that swelling go down before you kind of evaluate what's going on. It's a grade 2 sprain, grade 2 being a tear of a tendon or a slight tear. So that's kind of what's going on with me. I'm hoping to get this remedied as soon as possible, but I'm not going to push it because it's one of those things, like Dylan has talked to me about it. It's an injury you don't want to take for granted. You don't want to say, oh, I'm injury-free now and get right back into training, because that can re-aggravate it, and your ankles are never going to be quite as stable. As soon as it happened, I posted the picture. Dylan sent me this photo of his very similar ankle injury. A lot more bruising, so it looks really, really bad. But Dylan also said that the doctors, I mean, Dylan, you can probably take it from here. You said that the doctors referred to it as one of the worst they've ever seen.
Yeah, so this happened to me while I was in France. I went out for UTMB 2013, and it happened to me, unfortunately, on the first freaking run while I was there. And it was a beautiful, wonderful summer day. I was near the top of this 5,000-foot climb. Had my iPod in. I had my poles out, just ticking my way up the mountain. And there was a really short downhill section before the final kick up to the summit proper. And I just, like you, lost focus for 1 second. I stepped off of a rock onto another one, and my ankle just folded. And I didn't go down, but I knew immediately that it was pretty serious. And within minutes, my sock was, the size of a baseball. And it just felt really wrong. It wasn't necessarily all that painful. It felt like something bad had just happened. I mean, it felt really unstable. It's kind of hard to describe. So I ended up having to take the gondola down off the top of the mountain. Luckily, there was a tram there that got me back down into Chamonix. And the kind people working at my hotel were like, oh, you should go see the doctor. And I was like, no, I don't need to go see a doctor. It's just a sprained ankle. And they're like, come on, you're in France. Like, it's free, basically. Just go to the doctor. So I did, and immediately she was horrified and wrote off any possibility of me competing in the UTMB. Of course, at that point, I was stubborn enough to be of the mindset that absolutely I'm still going to run the race. It wasn't until 10 days later, race week, that I finally realized that it was not going to be a smart thing for me to do. But like you, it was just the classic inverted ankle sprain. I never got an MRI, but like you said, I had several people say that they hadn't ever seen one that bad, particularly one that also didn't include a break. So I did get an X-ray, and there was nothing broken in my ankle, but I also never got an MRI. My assumption is that I had a grade 3, that I actually ruptured one of the ligaments in there fully. Of course, I don't know that, and I'm not sure if I ever will, unless it happens again, knock on wood. But it's a super frustrating injury, and something that I struggled with mightily. I mean, you can ask my girlfriend. It was basically like the doldrums of my last 5 years of my life. There was 2 months of just severe, I was just really, really sad and bummed. But looking back on it, it was a really positive thing that's happened to me in my career as an athlete, because, like I said, it was the motivating factor for me to get a coach. It was sort of one of those moments of truth where I thought, if I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this right, and I'm going to give it all I have, and I need somebody to help me. And luckily, Jason Koop was willing to take me on, and he, like we've already spoken about, has really transformed me into a totally different athlete, and I wouldn't have reached out to him if it hadn't been for my ankle injury. And also, the other thing is that coming back from it after such a long rest, when I finally came back to running, I mean, I can't even describe how happy I was, number one, but also how good I felt because of such a long forced break. And it was something that was really educational for me, looking back and really learning the value of deep rest like that, because I had been going for a few years basically nonstop at that point, and having that huge rest combined with teaming up with a great coach has allowed me to sort of take the next step in my career, and it wouldn't have happened without that injury. So as frustrating as they are, believe me, bro, it gets better, and just be patient with it.
That's been the consensus across the board, is patience, and I think I'm gonna have to learn that lesson pretty quickly this year, because it's tough. It's tough for someone who loves racing, who loves being out there, who loves making films, who loves being on the trail and sharing their experiences, as Dylan can attest. So it's going to be a real challenge in patience for me, because there is so much this year that I have planned, and the goal is to make sure that it's not just this year that I get stuff done, that it's the 5 and 10-year plan, and that this injury doesn't get worse or become chronic or anything like that. So I'm going to do my due diligence and be as patient as possible. A lot of people talk in the chat room about how it's inaccurate for a doctor to put a grade on a sprain, but that's how they do it. That's how they're able to label something one way or another, grade 1, grade 2, or grade 3, just in response to one of those questions. So I'm doing everything I can, compressing it, using cold when I can, and I'm able to walk on it, put weight on it and stuff like that. It's going to be a long process, I think. Minimum a couple of weeks for sure, where I'm not going to do much of anything. When were you able to get back on the bike, Dylan? Because I know that you mentioned you were able to get on a bike.
Have a look at my Strava from 2013. I'd have to look back myself. But, yeah, like I mentioned to you in my email, I came back from it too early on probably 3 different occasions, thinking I was okay. And then, having it being quite clear to me that I needed to give it a bit more time. So I think probably overall, it was probably 12 weeks until I felt decently comfortable enough on it to run trails. Again, mine was on the more severe end of the spectrum, and I've had a lot of ankle rolls in my day, and this one was just, the most severe. And I've had plenty in the past that have been slightly swollen that I've run on basically immediately. For this one, yeah, like I said, probably 12 weeks. But in the meantime, I did ride my bike a lot, and I was actually doing some intervals on my bike to just try and maintain a little bit of cardiovascular fitness. So that would be something I would recommend for somebody in a similar situation. And I guess the important thing to also mention is that it wasn't as if my ankle still hurt for 12 weeks. The pain wasn't like it was a sharp pain. It was more so I didn't feel comfortable on it. I didn't feel confident on it. It felt just unstable is the only way I can really describe it. And as I've mentioned to you also, Ethan, it's something that I still think about every single day. On every single run I go on, I think about my ankle, and particularly when I'm going downhill. And I'm not sure that's something I'll ever shake. It'll never look the same again. It's still swollen, still scar tissue buildup in there. but it allowed me to focus on different areas of my running, and like I said, there's so much positive that came out of the injury that at this point I think it was one of the best things that could have happened to me as an athlete, at least.
What I wanted to kind of end this on is one of the main reasons I really like Dylan is because in your email as well, despite the fact that I had this pretty big setback, in my mind, as soon as it happened, it wasn't the pain that bugged me. I was instantly angry. I was so angry at myself because I have all these big races, I have all these things coming up that I want to be healthy for. And my resolution, number one, was to stay healthy. And to have this happen on the third day or fourth day or whatever of January, it was like, fuck everything. I was so angry. But to have someone like Dylan, who's an elite runner, reach out and be like, dude, this happened to me. It will take time. Chill. It'll get better. Everything will be fine. Was a huge help to me. So if there's anything that you guys can take away from this episode based off of, a lot of people will get ankle sprains, will get swollen ankles or some sort of injury in their running career. If there's anything that we can help you take away from this episode, it's don't worry, it will get better. Be patient, and that's something that I'm literally learning and teaching myself right now because it's all I can do to cut my foot off and put a stump on it and go for a run. That's terrible. I would never recommend it, and I don't think that's actually what I'm thinking at all. But I'm so frustrated. And you guys are going to be real-time experiencing the injury with me. I have no problem documenting it and sharing it with you. I have plenty of other things to do with Ginger Runner, updating the website and getting gear designed and all this cool stuff. So no sweat off my back. It's just I do have a race around the corner. I am bummed that I have to consciously make the decision whether that's going to be a feasibility or not based off of the next week or 10 days or 14 days. But hearing those words from you, Dylan, were really, really helpful. And helped kind of take me out of that slump of fuck me and turn it into a more like, well, look at it as an opportunity, or look at it as my body telling me that it needed to take the break. Because like you, I've had probably hundreds of little ankle rolls, little tweaks where on a run you have to stop and go, ooh, that hurt. Oh, that was not a good one. No swelling. Okay, let's keep running. And this was the first time where it was like, whoa, okay, something needs to change.
Right.
So we're running at the end of our time here for this episode. Dylan, if you want to stick around, we do a little bit of a post show. I know there's a lot of questions going through the chat room, so if you want to stick around for a little bit longer, if you have the time, I'll just rapid fire them at you. Before we get to that, we're going to finish this show off with the little segment on the show that I like to call... And Dylan will answer these questions as fast as possible. Dylan, are you ready for the Quickie Question Quiz?
Let's do it.
All right, super easy. First race.
It was the Breckenridge Crest Marathon.
Favorite running movie?
Unbreakable.
Trails or road?
Trails all day.
Favorite place to run?
Probably Aspen, Colorado.
Side question: do you miss Aspen? Do you miss the altitude and the mountains out there?
No, not really. I do miss, surprisingly, I miss skiing. I miss that component of it more than anything else. I love the Bay Area. Harmony and I feel super comfortable here. It's felt like home since we moved here, and I've been back to visit probably 5 or 6 times since I've moved away from Aspen, so it'll always be a home away from home, but at this point, no, not really.
What's your favorite post-race indulgence?
I guess beer.
Good answer. What are your current kicks? What are you running in right now?
I've been running in the North Face Ultra Cardiac, which comes out here in just a week, or I don't know, hopefully I think in January. And I think it'll be a popular shoe. I think it'll be a popular shoe.
Awesome.
So.
Cool. Can't wait. And that is it. That is the Quickie Question Quiz. Thank you, Dylan. Before we move into the post show, for those of you who are listening to the podcast version of this, Dylan, where can people find you? Your Instagram, your Twitter, all that stuff, because I know there's going to be a lot of questions that people are going to send your way. So where can people find you?
Yeah, so I am at Dylan Bow DYLANBO on Twitter and Instagram. I have a Facebook page, like an athlete page, but I haven't really like done anything with it yet. So my typical normal profile is there as well. So feel free to add me. And then DylanBowman.com is my website that I hope to update very soon.
Excellent. Thank you, Debo, for joining me on Ginger Runner Live. Again, I've been wanting to do this for a long time. I'm super stoked that we got the date to work out and we actually have like the injury thing to talk about. And you're super inspiring. You're an amazing athlete. It's awesome anytime I get to see you. So even though this is virtually, it's still rad. For those of you who are watching live, go follow Dylan. He's an awesome athlete. And as he mentioned earlier, he has the Strava as well. So if you want to go back and kind of check out how he trains and figure out his speed workouts and dissect an elite's full training schedule, I would look at Dylan's. He's a perfect example of someone who trains his ass off, and the results speak for themselves. Those of you who are tuning in live, thank you. Thank you for watching the first Ginger Runner Live of 2015. Based off of this, if we go every single week, we're going to get a full year of episodes. And there's going to be some changes in some of the credits and some of the segments and stuff like that within the next month or so as I get back to my regular editing station, so get excited for that. A lot of really cool things coming. I appreciate you guys tuning in live every single Monday at 6 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Again, Ginger Runner Live with new guests every single week, and you can follow me on all the social networks, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, is all that stuff. It's all in the description below. Stick around for the post show. We'll see you guys in just 1 second. Yes. Oh, excellent. Thank you, Dylan. Totally appreciate it. You rock, man. If you have time, you're welcome to stick around. I don't know if I feel like dinner is almost ready. I've been hearing pans clanking around and stuff like that.
Yeah. I probably have to take off, but
okay.
I appreciate you having me, man. It's been good, good chatting, great conversation. Hope that ankle heals up. And
you bet.
Peace out, Ginger Runner Nation.
Peace out, Dylan Bowman. Give my love to the family, man. Give my love to the dog too. We didn't get any dog appearance tonight. Where's?
Hey, come here.
There we go. For those of you who don't know, Dylan's dog is probably one of the most adorable dogs. Oh.
This is Millie, who's named after Mill Valley. She's looking directly at the food that Harmony's cooking right now. So she's a good girl.
Go follow Dylan on Instagram. There's great photos of Millie and stuff like that.
And also follow Millie on Instagram.
Oh.
Her handle is Millie of the Valley. MILLY of the Valley. She's got like almost 800 followers on Instagram. So give her a follow.
That's awesome. Yeah. It's all Brett Rivers.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just all him. Thanks, Debo. Appreciate it, man. Give Harmony my love and have a good dinner.
Thanks a lot, man. We'll talk to you soon.
You got it. Sounds good. Yeah. Excellent talk with Debo. Again, following all the social networks, guys. I'm going to kind of go through the chat quickly. I know there's a lot of questions. We're going to make this a short post show because I have to get the kitchen ready. We're going to make dinner here as well very, very soon. Thanks for watching live, everybody. I hope you guys had a good holiday. Did everyone have a good New Year's, good, safe New Year's? I was out of cell range for days, and it's the weirdest thing. It feels great when you unplug until you plug back in and go, oh, my God, I fucking missed everything. Mariah says, yay for the dog appearance. Yeah, Millie's adorable. I forgot Millie's name, but I'm glad I remembered. No, Debo's favorite burrito. I should have asked him. Anthony, great question. I'm sure Debo has quite a taste for burritos. Nothing like California burritos. Let's scroll up here. I don't know if I should be doing shorter distance, faster pace, or longer distance, slower pace, says Adam. I think it's going to depend. It's going to depend on what you're looking for as far as results are concerned. Let's see. Oh, Graston. People are talking about Graston. I was going to mention this to Debo. I'm sure he's fully aware of Graston. Everyone tends to be fairly aware of it. Someone says they loved Graston technique, and then people are calling him out like, who loves Graston? Graston's one of those techniques where they take, I believe it's metal or plastic bars or bones, and they rub it along the fascia, bones, muscle, and tendons to work out scar tissue. Fucking hurts like a bitch. And I don't say that lightly or as a joke. It's supposed to hurt because you're breaking up scar tissue. It's a terrible, terrible thing that does really good things, but it's a terrible thing. Um, One of the few techniques, when applied, can bring the patient to tears without question, almost every single time. Let's see. Easing back into running is the key. It sucks for us addicts for sure. As long as it doesn't hurt, you'll be good. So that's what I'm waiting for. Just kind of based off of dovetailing off that comment, is kind of waiting for the ability to get on my feet and run again. I'm not pushing it. I've been walking around the apartment, and that's pretty much it. Tomorrow, I might. I'm going to try to make an appointment with a local physio. I don't know any physios up here, but I'm going to try to make an appointment with a local physio that's worked with the Canadian Olympic team. They're good at some stuff, and try to get in there and see if they can take a look at it and just give me at least some good exercises and techniques that will allow me to rehab this as best as possible on my own now that I'm in Canada for another week. Balance board, people talking about the balance board or the rolly board, one-legged stands, basically proprioception and all sorts of exercises that work those tiny muscles and fibers in there are key and important. So I've been doing a lot of research on that. Here's the thing, and Debo mentioned this to me. We've been emailing back and forth about this, and this is kind of what I've been finding, is that these little exercises like balance boards, wobble boards, you can get the cushions that are about like a disc. They're inflatable discs, same material that those exercise balls are made of. But you stand on them on one foot. These types of exercises, I've been told, are important all the time, not just when you're injured, but when you're exercising on a regular basis, especially running or ultra running. These are things that you need to incorporate into your cross training to help strengthen all the muscles and get those tendons ready for situations like this, like an ankle roll. They help stabilize everything, whether it's your core, your back, your legs, your knees, your ankles, like all that stuff needs to be super strong and ready. I feel like what was going on was I have been continuously rolling my ankles for years, not doing any real damage in the sense that it took me out for a couple of days. Like every time I roll my ankle, it's been like a little whoop, like a little roll. And you have to stop in the trail and go, whoa, okay, everything's good. It doesn't hurt. Shake it off, run it off. I think that stuff adds up. So I think the more you do that, in my mind I was going, oh, it's stretching those tendons out, or it's proving that my tendons are stretched. So it's not causing an injury. So that's good. No, I think it's almost the opposite, where the more you do it, the worse your tissue in there is getting. So you need to constantly use Graston techniques and strengthen that area for those specific moments where your ankles roll. It's going to be stronger. I think it's just been a weak point that was bound to happen. So now the trick is for me to strengthen this back up, get that confidence back on it, because a lot of the trails that I run, I purposefully run technical trails because I love it. But I'm going to need to do the same thing to my other ankle. So it doesn't, basically, I'm not going to compensate for my left ankle being injured by running more on my right and damaging that. So that's my biggest fear. So I'm going to have to do basically double the work. Oh, Kimosabe, yeah, had a great one with Ginger Mist. Ginger Mist was fun. I'll be doing that next year for sure. I was really, really excited about that. Oh, thank you, Mr. Fishery. Happy birthday to Kim. Belated birthday. Her birthday was on the 30th, but we had a great birthday up on Mount Hood. For those of you who aren't familiar, it's in northern Oregon. Huge, beautiful, snow-capped mountain. Tons of trails. Holy fudge. There was a lot of trails around that mountain. We got there. Where we were staying was at that elevation. It was about 1,600 feet, so not even that high. But the snow level was anywhere between 1,400 and 1,800 feet was snow. Not snowing, but leftover snow. And it had gotten really cold, so it got really icy. There was this one gorgeous trail that we started going up, and not even a half mile up, the trail was a giant, essentially a 200-foot tall granite slab that went straight into a river. So it was a roaring river, and then this giant slab that just kind of cut up into the mountain, and then right in the middle of it was cut the trail, like an L. I guess it'd be like that. So it was river right here, About 10 feet off of that was the trail slab, and then a wall slab, and then the rest of the big granite like bubble almost. And that entire trail, which is maybe about 100 feet long, was just ice. It was all exposed rock, but then just an ice rink. So if you slipped into the river, and there was a couple sections of that leading up to it, all of those sections were impossible to get traction on. We had to step off trail and like rock climb, and then when we got to that section, it was like, we don't have the equipment. The only equipment you could use to get across this would be either micro spikes with really sharp edges or ice skates. I mean, it was terrible. It was really, really terrible. Beautiful trail. We just didn't get to enjoy it. So we had to turn around at that point. But there's a lot of trails like that throughout the Mount Hood area. Just beautiful, but not in great shape because of the way that the snow conditions were. Alex says, New Year's goal, 1,200 mile total, 100 miles each month, at least running 2 more marathons, and want to run my first 50K. Any advice? I'm going to kind of put the same advice that Dylan Bowman gave me, and that is don't freaking give up. Just do it. Just do it. It'll get easier. If your goal is to do about 100 miles a month, by the end of the year, that 100 miles is going to be easier. So, maybe you start, I don't know if you're starting 100 miles a month in January, but I promise you, by the time you get to July or August, 100 miles is going to seem like nothing, and you're going to want to increase that distance. So look forward to that. Ginger, I'm recovering from stress fracture and trying to decide how to get back into running, distance or speed. Oh, I see what you're saying. I got it, Adam. Probably speed, because you can always increase your distance over time. Speed is something, if you can start working on speed and have it progress as you progress through distance, you'll just be fast as you increase on the distances. That's what I wish I had done when I got back into running about 8-9 years ago. Was just focused on speed, because now I feel like I'm having to kind of start over again. But anyone can start working on speed at any time. But I think getting a coach is important to help keep you in line and keep the schedule rotating properly so your body adapts to the speed. How about the buffs? Rick Thomas, great question. I've been getting the emails. All of the buffs finally arrived at my house. I thought I was going to be able to ship them out before Christmas, but I did not have all of them. So that would have been unfair to ship half of them to some people and then not to the rest. I would have had hundreds of emails from people like, well, why didn't I get mine? And would have been a disaster. So I had to wait for all of them to get there. Unfortunately, I had to leave for the holidays before all of them arrived. They're at home in the US. They will all ship together as soon as I get back in the US. So originally planned was January, mid-January. That is exactly the plan we're sticking with, was the original plan. Because the only reason why I even thought about shipping it before Christmas, because the manufacturer sent a batch early, which was them thinking that they were going to be helping me out by getting it done before Christmas. But the reality was I needed the full batch. So that'll be what ends up happening, is on schedule to ship mid-January, and I'm very excited. And then we're going to get right back into manufacturing a new version and a bunch of new gear, which I'm really, really excited about. Let's see. I'm not supposed to. Stainless tool. You can do it yourself with the shovel. Love it. Hurts like a mofo. Sure does. Go onto the ART website. Yeah, ART is another treatment that I'm looking to get. As soon as I get back to LA, I have an ART guy. He's amazing. And I will be going to him as soon as possible, because I think he's going to be one of those guys that's going to look at it. He also does Graston. He's going to look at it and go, I know exactly what you need to do, because he fixed my hamstring issue last year. I had a psoas issue earlier in the year, and he fixed both of them. So the difference with those injuries was that I was able to run on them. This is one of those injuries I'm not able to run on. So I hope that he's able to get me fixed up, get me all good. Ginger, first long run of the new year, and my calf muscles don't want me to watch you anymore. I'm confused. What does that mean? Ginger, if you didn't pause in San Francisco Marathon, you could have shaved the tooth. I know. Trust me, fully aware of that. For the New Year Marathon PR, that one I'm not necessarily really worried about, because the New York Marathon just kicked my ass. And I think I was actually sick, because the next day I was sick for the week after the New York Marathon, starting almost 2 hours after I finished the race. So part of me thinks, oh, maybe I just didn't know I was sick, and my body was fighting something, and it was not performing what I thought it would, or how it would perform on race day. So that was really interesting. But yeah, in the San Francisco Marathon, I missed my marathon PR by 2 seconds, and I stopped for a beer at mile 21 or something for like a sip. So I feel like that was the reason. I'll get my marathon PR this year, and I'll get a half marathon PR as soon as I heal. Let's see. Ice spikes work badass. I agree, Chris. Yeah, they're pretty awesome. If you could only run one race for the rest of your life, what would it be? Oh man, I don't know. There's too many races around the world that I have not run, so I don't think I can answer that. Who compared the inspiring Ginger Runner music? Oh, it's all, yeah, who composed the inspiring Ginger Runner music? That's all me. I do all the music for my videos. And you can go to iTunes and search Ginger Runner. That's all me. Ginger sunglasses? Maybe. Maybe that's not. It's not necessarily something that's on my list. I feel like there's too many sunglass manufacturers out there that do an amazing job. Maybe collaborating with a brand like that, maybe a possibility, coming up with some sort of design, but that's not quite the priority. But there are some, it's a good idea. So who knows? Going to try and break 5 minutes in the mile tomorrow to track meet. Wish me good luck. Oh yeah, kill it. That'll be great. Do it, Matthew. If you've got the speed, then you've got the need. Louis Savard, New Year's resolution, run my first 50K in October at Patapsco, 50K in Baltimore. Ginger Runner is the one who made me discover ultras and trails, so thank you. Oh yeah, no problem. Get it, 50K in October. You got plenty of time to train for it. So that's excellent. And I'm not familiar with that particular race, but I bet it's awesome. In Baltimore. Ethan Ubrake, the Ginger Runner, composes his own music. Yes. Thanks for the advice. Well on my way to 100 miles this month. Been running for 6 years now, so can't wait to destroy the 12-mile goal. Oh, yeah, totally. 1,200 miles, you'll be able to get that done. No problem. If you're doing 100 miles this month, like I said, you'll be increasing that before you know it. So, yeah, don't sweat that. Yeah. I'm just waiting for all the comments to kind of catch up. It's just scrolling through. You're going to review the Fresh Foam 980 MT. I'm assuming you mean the trail version? I did review it. I have the video, I believe, with me, where I'm editing it now, and we'll post it to my YouTube channel maybe this Friday. I'm not sure which review I have coming first. It's either going to be the Pearl Izumi Road N2, the new 2015 model, or the New Balance Fresh Foam Trail. I'll be honest, not great. Not a great shoe. Real bummed. Yeah, real bummed. Biggest tips for runner's knee. I just finished my first half marathon and it really hindered my race time, but I'm still proud of finishing. Tips for recovery from my IT band issues. That sounds like two different issues. IT band issues are different than runner's knee, but I believe IT band issues can contribute to runner's knee. I've had runner's knee many times in the past, and it always pops up in different areas, whether it's under the cap or below the cap or above the cap. I've been able to train through it, and it tends to dissipate with attention. So icing it and elevating it and kind of doing the typical RICE method to dealing with it, it will subside eventually. That's how it's worked for me. And I had runner's knee earlier this year that was debilitating, where I couldn't run downhill without pain in my left knee. But taking care of it and kind of not running many downhills really helped it just kind of relax a little bit, and eventually it subsided, and I was able to run the rest of my ultras throughout the rest of the year, including the Squamish 50-50. So that was good. Grimy equipment at hotel gyms is what kills you. Oh, that sounds terrible. I've had many sprains and also broken an ankle. My best advice is to take time and don't re-injure it. Yeah, Rick, that's my goal at this point, is to take the time it needs to heal completely, but get it moving. I believe in active recovery, and I'm not saying running on it as soon as possible, but I am saying actively moving it and working out that scar tissue, so when it does heal, it doesn't heal more brittle than when it was injured. That's kind of at least my mentality about it. I want to just make sure that it's good before I even attempt to run. I have the Orcas Island 50K, February 7th. It's my birthday. It's the race. It's the first mountain I ever climbed with my dad when I was a kid. Mount Constitution on Orcas Island. I used to go there all the time as a kid in the summer. So it has all the sentimental value to me. And that's why I'm really bummed, is because I'm not saying I'm not running it. I'm 2 days removed from this, so I have no idea how it's going to heal. And everyone heals different. So we'll have to know. Sirens are coming, so I don't know if you guys can hear that. So I don't know how it's going to turn out, but I'm being very optimistic. If I don't end up running it, I'm going. There's no way I'm not going because it's a Raid Shadow running race, and they put on some of the best races, so I want to at least be there. I'd be really, really bummed if I couldn't run it, but I'm not dealing with that yet. Ethan, my contribution to the trail community is hosting an intro to trail running race. I give out stainless steel pints. Ginger Runner stainless pints. Oh, that's cool, Baker. That's pretty fun. You should do stainless pints for your race. They don't need to be Ginger Runner pints. They should be from whatever your race is. Goku Flip. What is your setup for recording during your races? What kind of mount do you use? How many batteries setting on GoPro? One battery in the GoPro. Haven't had to use more than one battery. I do carry an extra, but I've never actually used it. And 1080p, 60p. That's pretty much it. And it's on a SP Gadgets pole. Super simple. Yeah, that's pretty much it. Do you see yourself working with Billy Yang to get a full feature film going? He's kind of doing his own thing. I'm going for my first. Do you see yourself? Let's see. I'm going. Fuck. Sorry, guys. It just started rolling real quick here. Downhill killed me in the New Year's race. I'm going for my first official training run in a few hours for my first marathon on 17th of May, 18-week program from Hal Higdon. Any tips for first timer? Follow the program. Hal Higdon has some of the best. It's what got me my first marathon in 2000, 2001. My Portland marathon was my first marathon, and I followed his program. It was great. Here's one thing that I would recommend, or a piece of advice from my experience is: if you miss a day, it's no big deal. I'm not saying skip days frequently. I'm saying if for some reason one day you have no time in your work schedule, or you're exhausted and you need to get out there, you need to get that 6-mile run in or whatever. Trust me, it's okay if you miss one day. Over the whole scheme of things, that one day is not going to make a big difference. Do not do it regularly. If you start missing one day a week, then it's a problem because you need to be consistent. But there's so much stress involved with following a training schedule where it doesn't adapt. So if you're not specifically talking with a coach and you're just following a schedule that you printed out from the internet, the problem with that is there's no room for flexibility. So that's just my kind of roundabout piece of advice: is if you're injured, take care of the injury. If you're sick, take care of your body. If for some reason you did not get a run in that day, make it up the next day, or don't feel bad about that one day. It's okay. You won't be the only ginger beer bum ankle towing the line at the Gorge 100K. Oh, I thrashed mine a week before Deception 50 and thrashed it more during that race. Oh no, Sam, that sucks. Same thing, like swollen. Did you sprain your ankle? Did you sprain it before Deception and then at Deception again? That sounds terrible. No, dude, I give them. Baker McCool says, no, dude, I give them pints with the race logo. I am thinking some new GR gear would be. Oh, I see what you're saying. Got it. Not a bad idea. I do have Steins, ginger train race beer Steins in the Zazzle store, zazzle.com/the ginger runner. That's all through Zazzle. So I just put the logo on it and I sell it. Make like 50 cents to $1. That's about it. I would like to make real good quality glass. So that could be a potential. Great idea, man. What software hardware have you been using to compose your music? Logic Pro. Logic Pro X, I think, is what I'm using now. I had to upgrade because I switched to Yosemite. And it's been okay. I'd rather use another DAW. I'd rather use Live, but Logic Pro X has been fine. I think I'm going to wrap it up here, guys. I just got a text from Kim. Did you hear about the Unbreakable running book, Cross-Training Endurance? Not familiar with that. Weird quirk while running. That's a great question, Hyperkooky. And then Sam Smith says, I count steps until I get bored and hum the Spider-Man theme song. That's hilarious. I feel like there's a bunch of things like that I do where I'll count something and I get really bored of it, but it at least distracted me to do something else. I also think about usually if I'm really kind of lost in thought, that's really helpful because I can start thinking about something far ahead. So if I'm running a race and I'm filming the race, I can think about how I'm editing the movie together. So I can kind of get this out of, I kind of transport myself to my editing station and start editing the movie while I'm running it in my mind. So that's helpful. All sorts of things like that. Things that take me to, I basically kind of try to transcend and go somewhere else and visualize myself physically somewhere else. But that's not necessarily a kooky, quirky trait. I tend to hum or sing to myself. Yeah. Oh, trashed it a week before and raced anyhow. Sam, that sucks. Yeah. Sam, I'm assuming then it's still in pretty bad shape. Oh my God, I'm finally watching on live. Yeah, Sean, we're actually wrapping up. So that sucks. But welcome. I see that you're in there. So I'm chatting you. Probably worth adding, try not to play catch up to make up for lost days due to injury or other reasons, as that's a sure recipe for disaster overtraining. Yeah, definitely. If you miss if you miss like 3 days in a row because you're injured, this is back to the Hal Higdon plan. If you miss a Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, you don't want to go on Friday and instantly like do your trainings or do doubles or anything like that. You just drop those days and pick up where you left off. It's better to give your body the time to recoup than anything. Let it heal. Yeah. That's it. Ethan, he just told me the name of this stuff. Ethan, I use Steely's drinkware for my race stuff. Great pricing, really unique product, stainless mason jars. I'll look into it, Baker. That's excellent. Hadn't heard of that. So I'll have to look. I'll have to maybe drop me a line with the website or anything like that. We'll look into it. So that is it, everybody. I hope that you have a great evening. I hope you guys have a great new year. I'll see you guys next week, same time, 6 p.m. Pacific Standard Time for Ginger Runner Live, episode number 48. You guys are excellent. I appreciate it. Get out there, train hard, race harder, party hardest. We'll see you guys next week.